After Bristol, we headed north to England's West Midlands region, where we spent 4 weeks exploring some of England's and Wales' waterways. In this first video, we'll take you through the nuts and bolts of our life on a British canal boat. We started in the town of Ellesmere, in a marina's dry dock, where we met up with our friends who owned the lovely Lavender Lass, a 57-foot, steel-hull, custom-outfitted canal narrowboat. Here's a tour with the help of our very cautious drone. Getting in and out of the main hatch was an exercise in protecting the top of your head, even for a Vic. The kitchen was well outfitted, with a half-sized refrigerator and freezer, and a 4-burner propane stove. The main living area had an internet streaming media center. The shower was adequately sized, and the queen bed was very comfortable. A wide variety of boats ply the canals, and the Lass is somewhere in the middle of space and comfort. Many have their own retail operation. And there's no shortage of personality. The Lass needed repairs before we could start our journey, but the marina's dry dock had sprung a leak. Keeping the dry dock dry was a real challenge, though they did finally make the fix, and we were underway with only a couple of days delay. The Lass's fuchsia unicorn horn leading the way. Driving the boat was the first thing to learn. Our friend stayed on a couple of days to train us, not a service we'd get with a rental. Keeping the boat going straight is harder than it might look, and a Vic never quite felt comfortable with it, so I did pretty much all of the driving. Most of the time, the canals were wide enough with room for error, but there were frequently boats moored on one side and boats coming the other direction. But fortunately, steel-hulled boats moving slower than you can walk make for very forgiving collisions. But of course, slow way down for kayakers. And always look out for low-hanging trees and banks that aren't well maintained, sometimes to the point of being hazardous. But there was a pole on board for when we got stuck. The UK canal system is extensive, and there are many available resources online, including a website with all the navigational information and tools you'll need, but that's impractical when you're on the move. So Vic used the onboard map books to guide the way. The most important things to manage while navigating are facilities, which can be widely spaced apart and heavily used. Grocery stores and restaurants are indicated on the maps, and some are very convenient to the canals. Water was the one we needed to keep most on top of, because even though the Lass had a sizable tank, we still needed to refill every couple of days. Trash disposal was relatively easy, and we only needed to fill up on diesel once. Sewage was my least favorite because the last uses cartridges that needed to be manually emptied. One-way channels are also important to look for when navigating. For bridges, blow the boat's horn to alert oncoming traffic. Including lift bridges, which take longer because they have to be raised and lowered, usually manually. If a one-way channel has a towpath, one person can walk ahead to check for oncoming traffic. Otherwise, there should be a cutout where you can wait for the way to be clear. Also, walk ahead on tunnels and aqueducts. Zones that are wide enough to turn around, called winding holes, are rare, another key thing for the navigator to look for. Locks are the most work of the canal experience. We went through locks 39 times in our 4 weeks on the canals. An extensive lock guide is available online, and our friends took us through a few. But actual practice is the only way to get the hang of it. Many times you'll have to wait in line. If an oncoming boat was the last through the lock, you can cruise right in. But if the previous boat is going your same direction, you'll have to reset the water level before you can enter. The work of opening and closing the gates and cranking on the paddles to control water flow fell mostly to a Vic, since I was driving. Fortunately, we sometimes had fellow boaters to help with the work. As a driver, the most important thing in a lock is to stay clear of the sill, a clearly marked line that indicates the lowest part of a lock's gate that can tip a boat if you're caught over it. Twice, we had to pass through a series of multiple locks, called staircase locks. Managing the water flow between them is more advanced, but luckily there were volunteers who took care of all of it for us. When not cruising, we moored up along the canal, sometimes only a short walk from town, and sometimes right in town. And occasionally with nothing but fields and pastures for miles around. Or, if you're willing to pay for the night, you can tuck in to one of the occasional marinas with full electric and water hookups and easy access to sewage disposal. Official moorings are marked on the maps and by signs along the canal. The easiest moorings are rings that you loop back into the boat. Some stretches have Armco guardrails, which require a special hook to moor up. Fortunately, we never had to moor on a stake driven into the dirt. Those are the most difficult to get right. There are many boater knots that you can learn, and many instructional videos available, but the one we used the vast majority of the time was the clove hitch. A more relaxing activity while aboard is feeding the canal's many birds. Ducks are ever present, often with a pack of the cutest ducklings. There are also swans, who, along with their baby cygnets, have been the property of the English monarch for nearly 1,000 years. When feeding, swans sound like very aggressive typewriters.
I was so worried he was going to come up.
All canal birds see boats and expect to be fed, but swans can be particularly insistent. During our 4 weeks of canal life, we covered nearly 100 miles of canals and saw many incredible sights, which we'll detail in the upcoming videos of our British Canal series.